Oh, hello, and welcome to Al Dente Rigamortis. I'm Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey. The E stands for evil.
And I'm regretting my choices in life. Also the gamer in yellow.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories, most creepy and most pasta, and be critically silly doing it. And tonight we have, for Jeffuary 2021.
Don't say it like that. There isn't going to be a sequel.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we're doing Jeff the Killer. So Jeff, is that a semicolon or a colon? I can never remember which one is which. Yeah. So Jeff
refer to it as Jeff the Killer by so and so.
Jeff the Killer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Jeff the Killer is by the Lolliet 10, who we've done some of their stories before, and this one is on their own little website, the Lolliet 10's Story Corner, and I'll leave a link in the description below. And yeah, so let's just kind of dive into this one with the rundown. So high school friends Keith, who is narrating, Randy, Troy, and Jane are heading out on a weekend camping trip for one last hurrah before they go their separate ways to college, unaware that they are driving into a slasher flick. We get to know the characters a little, their hopes and woes, their nerdiness and drunkenness around the campfire. They seem like a bunch of decent friends. Then at midnight, around the campfire, Jane, as is her wont to do, surprises the gang with a spooky, scary story, much to the chagrin of Troy, who's a little bit of a bitch. She starts telling them the story of Jeff the Killer. She gets really into it, and with the help of Keith, who was in on things, finishes the tale with some theatrics and cheap booze dunked on Randy. The gang has a good laugh at it, and they quickly begin calling it a night. While the more sober folks build the tent and get the camp closed down for the night, Randy goes off to relieve himself. After a while, they start wonder where Randy's gone, because he's been gone a while. So Keith goes to check on him. To his horror, Keith finds Randy dead, his face cut up, and the killer roaming nearby in the bushes. He nopes out of there, running back to camp, alerts his friends who don't fully believe him at the time, and then reaches the car to call the authorities when the hooded figure arrives and kills Troy, leaving Jane in hysterics. Keith manages to come to the rescue and bludgeon the assailant with a log, and cops arrive on the scene shortly thereafter. These events leave the two survivors shaken, with neither leaving their hometown, and worse, Jane is admitted to the local psych ward. She continues to spiral in her mental state and obsession over the figure and character of the scary story she told from that night, believing them to be one and the same, and that they're still out there. Keith took up a course at the local college in criminal justice, and these events have resurfaced for him because while at school, someone keyed his car, leaving a message: "Go to sleep." And that's where the story ends. So we move on to everyone tolerates the grammar inquisitions at this point. So yeah, there's a fair amount of grammar inquisition here, for me anyway. I'm going to start with the first sentence. Randy's old Ford bounced with the bumps in the old dirt road, and I was amazed that none of us had been knocked unconscious from the shitey suspension. So the word shitty there needs a second T. That's it.
I mean, I refer to things as shitey.
Yeah, but I mean, like, that's not how, like, yeah, you don't just add the Y to shit to call it shitty.
The way the character talks.
Except this isn't a dialogue in this instance.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, we'll get to that. We'll get to one of those. To a couple of them. Next one here. Get a room, Troy scoffed, getting the bags of food we got with the wood out of the floor of the truck. So I might change a word or two here to go with, so getting the bags of food we bought with the wood. out of the back of the truck. Because out of the floor of the truck, like seems like they're like pulling it out of the like it's
It's
clipped
in like hidden compartments.
that, or it's clipped to the geometry
Yeah,
of the truck.
it's all a video game, obviously.
Yes, clearly.
Makes sense to me.
Also, just like the food we got with the wood, like for some reason it just didn't like sound right to me. So I feel like the food we bought with the wood made more sense.
Yeah.
And if you want to be super hypercritical, maybe even just like do like the bags of food we bought alongside the wood, so that it's not like, oh, you bought it with wood.
Oh, you bought it using wood?
Yeah, I was going like critically.
Yeah.
I was going critically silly this time
Yeah.
on that. Yeah, and then this is a tense issue we have in the next one. There was no real way for us to keep in close contact if anything major got in the way, and I knew that I would have came along at the drop of a dime. So that I would have come along at the drop of a dime. Just a little tense issue. A little tense. The next one
big
here.
10. I think it's big enough for 4 of them, right? In the story.
Yeah. And Randy's dad bought it for them, so yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on. After that, I brought that Mr. Davis, our English teacher, had told me I was going to be the debate team captain, and Randy nearly threw my back out with how hard he slapped it. So I think it's after that I brought up that Mr. Davis.
Yeah,
he's bringing up
brought
something
it to the conversation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the next one here, I had to interrupt mostly because of something Jane and I had talked about at the checkout line of Walmart while Troy and Randy were drooling over the new Magic set that had come out. So a bit of a run on because there's no like period or anything like that to break it up or anything like that. And also that where like the glaring issue really is the while Troy and Randy were drooling over the Magic set, not where.
Yes.
Yeah. And then the next one here. So the boys meet up with a couple of bullies who pull knives out on them. I know it's dialogue. Sue me. Don't actually sue me, please. But I would be remiss if I did not bring this up. That it should remove these so that it's when the boys meet up with the bullies. So it says the boys meet up with a couple of bullies who pull knives on them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Also, I have a secondary question about that.
Sure.
When it said a couple with 2 boys named Jeff and Lou. Lou is spelt differently. Is that intentional?
I noticed that too. I think that
not?
was intentional. Like maybe this author just wanted to do a slightly. This author's spinning some things on their head already with the story and with with these characters. Like you did catch that these characters are all the bullies' names, right?
That's just coincidence.
Like Randy, Troy, Keith. Those are the bullies from the original Jeff the Killer story.
Yeah.
And then Jane, which is we'll get into that a little bit later.
All right, fair enough.
But yeah, no, it is spelled differently. But I mean, like you're allowed creative license on something or some creative creative freedoms when it comes to this kind of thing. So, and also the reason why I say that was intentional is because Lou, I think, is mentioned again. I think it's mentioned twice, and it's the same spelling.
Oh, I know that. I know that the different spelling is consistent. I don't know if the different spelling is because the author didn't go back to check the original spelling of how Lou was spelt, or if they intentionally spelled it differently.
Gotcha. And yeah, I feel like it's probably intentional. I mean, I could be wrong, but I just kind of have that like feeling. So on to the next one here. Yes, this one. I asked a s'more in one hand and a bottle of vodka, and I brought in the other. Okay, this one is just unforgivable. It's s'more, S''MORE. Truly the biggest offense of this story's grammatical heresy.
Really?
Yeah. No, I'm just like being silly. But yeah, no, s'more is actually like according canonically and like spelling wise, it is actually need that apostrophe between S and M. It's stupid. It's just like yeah. That I mean, I'm obviously not being very I'm not actually super serial about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, it's because it's like a contraction of some more.
Yeah, exactly. It's
reasons.
well, because it's a cute little branding name for that kind of campfire delicacy.
Mhm.
So, on to the next one. She asked up, which we all shook our heads to.
Yep.
I think she asked us. Unless she just she asked up, looked into the sky, and we all just shook our heads, oh, there's that Jane again, asking God for permission.
Yeah.
Next one here. I've heard that the bullies tried to threaten him with a flare gun, and it went off as he was kicked their asses. So the left side of his face is scarred and burnt. So the kicked there should be kicking. So it went off as he was kicking their asses. On to the next one.
We're talking about
the
the past and shit.
That still doesn't make sense to me though. So
yeah,
as he kicks their asses.
As he was kicked their asses.
Or as he kicked their asses.
Yeah, it could also go. Yeah, it could also be that. Yeah, as he kicked their asses, that would work as well. But if you didn't want to remove the was, just change the kick to kicking.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. You could go either way.
Yep.
And on to the next one. Randy had started to try and help us, but he wound up falling on his ass one too many times. So we just old him to sit and try and sober up a bit before bed. I think you want that we just told him to sit and try to sober up. Unless you're using some foul magics to old him, make him older.
And to age him real quickly.
Yeah. If we old him, he'll be sober because he'll be future him when he's not drunk.
Make sure to only old him 6 hours or so. Don't old him too many years and such.
Yeah, otherwise it's just he'll just desiccate.
Totally.
Yeah. On to the next one. I stood and started to walk down the gravelly shore, pulled out my phone, and turned on my flashlight as I headed foliage. So I just need to remove one of those first thes. So it's I stood and started I stood and started to walk down the gravelly shore. That's all you gotta do. Just simple. Just had an extra word in it that didn't need. My next one here. I felt my heart beat faster and faster as I started to step back, only to see the bush in behind of Randy's body move and the white of a long sleeve shirt poked out of the Levy wall. Okay, so I rewrote this slightly just because it wasn't sitting well with me. So I felt my heart beat faster and faster as I started to step back, only to see the bushes behind Randy's body move. Period.
Yeah.
The white of a long sleeve shirt poked out of the leafy wall, because leafy wall was actually it says Levy, almost like Levi. So it's a wall made of jeans behind Randy's body. Levi jeans. Yeah. And yeah, it just kind of needed a period somewhere in there to kind of break up the run on a bit. My next one here, I could see her foot bouncing and her teeth were nibbling into her bottom lip. So her teeth were nibbling into her bottom lip. And my next one, Officer Walker told me Jane and I were going to be taken to a hospital while they called our parents. Then he apologized for my loss. For me, this might be just a simple one, or kind of take it or leave it, but I feel like it should be then he apologized for our loss, since Jane is still there. Our condolences for both of them.
Well, and it shouldn't be sympathized instead of apologized.
Yeah, that would also maybe work too, because it's I'm sorry. It's well, you didn't do it. It's just walks off into the darkness. Yeah, I know. And then he sympathized for our loss.
Hmm.
And then
you mean apologize? You mean apologize? You said sympathized.
Well, no, because I'm agreeing with Mikey. I think it should be sympathized.
Oh, yeah.
It could be apologize, but I think sympathize is a stronger word for it.
You use the same word. You're still saying sorry for your loss.
Yeah, no, you're right. But it's the way you write it, and the way you describe that action. So, yeah, English language.
I hate it. It's the worst.
That's got to be like one of our T-shirts someday. It's just like, I hate the English language.
Yeah.
Next one here. I decided to go into criminal justice for obvious reasons, and I was talking to one of my classmates when he stopped and pointed to me car. Oh yes, you boyo. He stopped and pointed to me car. I think it just needs to be. He stopped and pointed to my car.
I thought you were going to go caveman speech.
No, that one. It almost sounded like kind of like an Irish accent.
Oh, yeah.
So
I also do that typo all the freaking time.
I mean,
I don't know why.
yeah, I don't know why either. On the keyboard, it's like two stroke. It's like 2 buttons away for me.
Yeah, but I don't know. It happens. I'm like,
Yeah,
no, it's
fair.
not me. It's my.
Yeah, no, it's fair. It's a common mistake. I'm not judging anybody for it. I'm just helping correct it.
Of course.
And then my last one. I swear to God, this is my last grammar inquisition, guys. Dude, someone keyed your Impala. He said, and when I turned, I dropped the books. I dropped the books in my arms, fell to the concrete. I think that you want to go with I dropped the books in my arms and fell to the concrete.
No, his arms fell off of his shoulders.
Yeah, or it's I turned and when I turned, I dropped the books in my arms, which fell to the concrete. So either he's falling with his books to the concrete, or like give something to like show like that those books fell to the concrete.
Well,
the way I rewrote it was I dropped the books in my arms as they fell to the concrete.
That would also work, yeah. And Mikey, you've been trying to get something in, but we've been talking over you.
Does it even need the in my arms? Like, I dropped the books and they fell to the concrete.
Yeah, that would work as well. Yeah, you don't really even need the arms. It's just kind of extra words that are kind of superfluous.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
But yeah, no, that's my grammar acquisition. So, Mikey, the E stands for evil. Your verdict.
I won Grammar Inquisition bingo because you got them all.
Woo!
Congratulations.
Yeah, no, I was like going through this one. I was like, you know what, fuck it. Let's see what we got here.
But did we mention that concrete is spelt wrong?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I even corrected it in my my rewrite. Yeah. So it's unless it's different for American English to Canadian English. I don't think so though. I think because otherwise it's fell to the concrete as
which
it is
is French.
Concrete. Oh yeah. That's right. That's why the Americans have such a problem with their English. It's actually just a French derivation of English. What? No, yeah, that's So it's got needs an extra E at the end of after that T.
Mm-hmm. And then I have an it story.
Ooh. And now an it story with Mikey. The E stands for evil. Take it away.
It was completely different from Romeoville, where the sounds of traffic and bass boosted rap from almost everywhere. It wasn't long after that when the sun set and Jane dumped half a bottle of lighter fluid onto the firewood. It didn't take long for us to start talking about hitting the hay, and who would set up the tent with me since I was the least drunk out of the 4 of us. It didn't take long for the 3 of us to finish setting up camp for the night, and I felt myself drifting off as the 3 of us waited for Randy to get back. It took what seemed like forever for the sirens and flashing lights of the cops to reach us. They brought up a pair of blankets. They took us to the side to get our testimony. Finn.
Bravo.
We have to pump the volume on those snaps.
Yeah, I might even like at some point down the road, I might actually even like do like start get some sample of some snapping for that spot.
Were you doing that next to your mic? It didn't sound like it.
It was right next to my mic, but my mic is also like directed directly toward my mouth, so like I had to put it like right to my mouth as I was doing this.
Yeah.
So, but wow, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the end of your grammar acquisition?
Yep.
All right. Gamer, your grammar in yellow.
I think you got most of mine.
Did I miss anything?
I believe so, unless I missed you saying these. First one is 1 second man, comma, where is almost there?
Oh shit, you're right.
Should be we're almost there.
Yeah. It's not even like a word. It's like WE apostrophe E or apostrophe RE.
Yes.
It's
Then,
how the character speaks.
Yeah, sure, we'll go with that. Or not.
It's dialogue.
Yes.
Randy is an idiot.
Randy is pretty dorky and dumb.
And he's not the dorky one, is he?
Yeah, he is a
was
dork. Yeah, no, he covers it up. Like he pretend like he in his later high school years he pretended to be he
Right,
thinks
yeah.
himself as a jock, but he really at his core he's a dweeb.
Yeah. Either way, next one.
Yes.
After a few more minutes, Randy killed the engine and slapped the wheel like he was finishing up a drum solo before jumping out of the driver's side door. So when I read this, I thought he reached out the window with like a Mr. Fantastic arm and reached down to slap the driver's side front wheel and tire. I was like,
God.
how?
Really?
That's what I saw in my head.
That's fair.
So the way that I would correct it is, after a few more minutes, Randy killed the engine and slapped the steering wheel like he was finishing up drum solo.
Yes.
There's two types of wheels.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
See, I don't ever really call the tires of a car wheels. I just call them tires.
Well, it's because there's a wheel and there's a tire on the wheel.
And then there's like, yeah, I guess.
The tire is the rubber, the wheel is the steel.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's the wheels on the bus. So,
oh my God, you're right. Shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They do go round and round. Round and round. Round and round. Round and round.
Anyways, my next one. Randy was laying face down in the dirt, his eyes wide open, and a long slash cut into his mouth. So when I read this, without what's his freaking name?
Keith.
Keith, yeah. Without Keith crouching down or nothing, it would be impossible for him to see this.
Yeah, I actually have this in my actual thought. I left this out of my grammar position because I wanted to talk about it in my actual thoughts. And just like
I put it here because it's like the reason is because it needs more words said.
That's
like,
true.
I would correct it to Randy was laying face down in the dirt, motionless, and when I crouched down, I could see his eyes were wide open. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Or like when he turns them over or something.
Yeah, I believe my comment for that, because I have it in like I had a comment. I had like a visceral, like I had an actual like visceral reaction to this when I read it. Let me see if I can pull up. Yeah, yeah. So Randy was laying face down in the dirt, his eyes wide open and long slash across his mouth. No, this was going so good. How do we know what his face looks like when it's face down in the dirt? Damn it.
Yeah. Yeah, simple. No. Like he wasn't moving. I rolled him over and saw that his face all that bad shit.
Absolutely.
That being said, he also had like a kitchen knife in his back. So
I think that would have been the more should have been mentioned first, and then when you rolled it. Well, then again,
roll him over on the kitchen knife.
No. Like I like. It's funny that he's face down in the dirt, his eyes wide open,
gripping his pillow tight.
But so first off, we wouldn't see his eyes because they're face down in the dirt. But also, I think the more prevalent detail that you should have started with was the knife in the back. Face down
I think that was mentioned last.
Yeah, it actually should have been Randy was down in the dirt, face down in the dirt with a kitchen knife in his back. That should have been the first detail after he was face down in the dirt.
Yeah, then be like, even though I was terrified, I had to see if he was alive. So I rolled him over a bit, and nope, his face was fucked up, and he was super dead.
Yeah, yeah. It tripped a little bit over on the first kill reveal.
Yeah. Or the easiest way to do this is just have him on his back with the knife in his chest.
Yeah, that too. Yeah,
then
face up in the face up to the sky, eyes wide open. Also, there's a knife in his stomach.
Yeah, exactly. So my next one, I still woke up screaming at night. That last camping trip was still playing in my head every time I tried to close my eyes. So he's talking present tense right now, but it's saying woke up.
Yeah.
So it should be I still wake up screaming at night because it's talking about right meow.
Yeah, that would definitely. Yeah, I remember hiccuping that, but not quite understanding what was wrong until you just brought it up. So, yeah,
I get it. And then the last one, I You were already talked about because it's about me car. I didn't.
Oh,
check
Neil
it out.
Boyo, about me car.
Mhm.
All right. So then I guess with that, we can move on to actual thoughts.
Yes.
So I'm gonna start with they mentioned a couple of places in this story, like Camp Capagani and Romeoville, and their home or the other, not hometown, but like there's another town name. And I mean, I couldn't help myself. I immediately Googled like Camp Capagani, and then Romeoville, and then the other one in like as they popped up in the story. I was like, so it sounds like this Jeff story is based out of Illinois from the because they're all real places.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're all places in Illinois. So far, Jeff stories have taken place in New Orleans, which is Louisiana, I believe. As I quickly Google that.
We know things.
Hey, we're Canadian. Yeah, it's the capital of Louisiana, or no, it's the city of Louis.
Mhm.
It's a city in Louisiana. Yeah. So far, Jeff the Killer stories have taken place in New Jersey, Louisiana, and now Illinois. So, like, depending on basically, it really just depends on who the writer is in America. I'm guessing it's write what you know kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is cool. Like, I mean, and that's nothing against the story. I just like, I couldn't help but like see if these are real places. And yeah, sure enough. And then my next one here, so boys, she started leaning forward and rubbing her hands together. Have either of you heard of stories about this part of the woods? Wow. At this point, like, I mean, at this point, I was already like pretty sure like we were walking into a slasher flick kind of story with Jeff the Killer as the slasher. Like, between getting to know the victims pre-slasher, like kind of setup that we get, camping in the woods, and now the hey gang, let me tell you about Jason. Like that the campfire story that like happened in Friday the 13th 2, when the head of the counselor like kind of group like gets all the counselors together. It's like, all right guys, I don't want to scare anybody, but let me tell you about Jason.
Let me tell you about the previous movie. Here's the recap.
Yeah. Let me tell you about the local legend that's probably that's definitely not gonna show up and murder here. Like it's just like the thing is here, like I'm mentioning all these like, oh man, this is like super slasher flick or kind of like setup and all that. I'm not complaining. Like, it's been a really good read so far for me, and I'm eating this up. I think it's interesting to change things up and make these characters actually likable, because like they were, like I said before, like Randy, Keith, and Troy were the bullies from all the previous other iterations of Jeff the Killer. So I think it's interesting to spin them on their head and have them be like likable right before they get murdered by Jeff or attempted murdered by Jeff. And then also Jane.
I wonder if Jeff specifically targets groups of friends that have a Troy, Keith, and see the guy's name? God damn it,
Randy.
Randy. Yeah, specifically like only groups of friends that have those three in them. He's going around the freaking U.S. just killing those groups because that was the original group.
I mean, that's also a possibility. I actually have something later in my writings or my thoughts on that, because it did bring something up from actually another like internet creepy pasta kind of related thing. Actually, fuck it, I'll bring it up now since we're here. So like it reminded me of like kind of like the meta contextual kind of stuff, especially like when Jane starts talking about like the like how like the different Jeff stories and how like they meet the bullies, but she never mentions who the bullies' names are. So like it could be that this is like, it's probably this is just an alternate reality Jeff story. Like this is not like the other stories are like they have other names and the bullies and stuff like that. Or I was kind of getting vibes of like Everyman Hybrid, which spoilers for that Slender vlog and like around the ending of that Slender vlog. But the characters, I think even like like kind of mid series of Everyman Hybrid, the characters start realizing that they are actually in a cycle, and they are neither the first versions of themselves, nor may they be the last. So it's kind of got like, I was kind of almost getting this idea of like, well, what if this is just another these characters at this camping trip? They're hearing this story about Jeff the Killer and the story and like the bullies and stuff like that. What if they are just another iteration of the Jeff the Killer bullies, but like kind of like just in an alternate like cycle of the Jeff the Killer. Like if you want to kind of take it into a metatextual kind of narrative, where like Jeff the Killer always goes after Randy, Keith, and Troy, regardless of if they're bullies or not.
Yeah, exactly. Because these ones seem like pretty decent dudes.
Yeah, exactly. Like these, like even Randy, like he's like there's mention of him. Where is it here? Like I'm kind of going like now I'm kind of just bouncing around my notes, but there's a part where they're looking for Randy, or Keith is looking for Randy, and he shouts out, "It's like, hey asshole, you've been pissing for like an hour, man. You get lost." And I'm just like, wait, you waited an hour to go check on your friend? Even if that wasn't the actual length, like dang. Then again, like I think back on our own asshole friend.
Everyone has one.
Gamer knows the one. And I'm just like, yeah, okay, that kind of checks out. But like, yeah, like Randy is like Randy kind of fits that bill of like, you know how every group of friend has an asshole. He's our asshole. Like he's an asshole like in terms of his attitude and some of his like mannerisms and stuff, but he's deep down he does have a heart of gold.
Yeah, he's an asshole with a heart of gold.
Yeah. And that's what like honestly like Randy kind of comes across as in this iteration, and like Keith, and like they don't seem like terrible people to each other, like to each other or even like others. Like they seem like just a bunch of like high schoolers.
Yeah, like Randy was like basically he's like struggling with breaking up with his girlfriend or something, and they're all like there to help him and everything.
Yeah, like this camping party, as much as it was like them like going like this is one last hurrah, this is also kind of like them kind of like like creating some more lasting memories, because they all are going their separate ways for college and stuff. And then like it even kind of brings up that like Randy's parents divorced really badly, like the way his parents divorced was like really affected him, because they did it so like so assholishly. Like within like a week, like they didn't even tell him until like a week before the papers were all fixed and signed. Like
it's kind of a dick move.
Yeah, like seriously, don't do that to your kid. But yeah, so like, and they all like kind of like they're all a bunch of nerds. Like they all like play Magic the Gathering on Fridays, and Troy's setting up details for his newest D&D campaign. Like if you want like from personally, if like this game, like this story had me like just hook, line, and sinker on like wanting to care about these characters.
Yeah.
And I was like, and it was weird because like their names are bullies from the previous iterations of Jeff the Killer, and I was like, I don't know how to feel about this. Other than like, all right, these are obviously not the versions that we've grown and loathed with, grown to loathe in previous stories. These are same names, different characterizations, which are fine. Like I'm totally down with that, and I'm also kind of sad because I know that some of these characters are going to die.
Yeah,
because it's a Jeff the Killer story, and also just a really good like setup for a slasher flick. But I digress. So also the inclusion of Jane as like a fourth party member to kind of lean onto the D&D stuff is interesting too, because of like it seems like a nod to the Jane the Killer side of Jeff the Killer story.
Yeah.
And especially as it later on goes on, like as it later happens, like I was like, oh man, like that she gets her those nods continue as it goes on.
I mean, this could be fodder for a sequel where Jane breaks out and goes nuts.
I actually have a theory about that at the end of my actual thoughts.
Okay, then maybe I'll just shut up.
No, it's fine. I just want to let you know. Like I'm like vibrating with giddiness right now.
Adorable. Okay.
Okay. Anyway, we'll get to that in a minute. So yeah, also like with Jane's stories, and like I love how like she's basically like the creepypasta aficionado. Like she got all the deets on other creepypasta characters, like oh god damn it, Jane, not again, Troy called out. The last time you told us about one of these, I couldn't sleep without the light on for a month. I chuckled as I remembered how Jane told us about the pale, long-limbed monster that sat at the end of a couple's bed and whispered for the husband to kill his wife. And I was just like, that's a nice nod to the Rake.
Yeah.
And then like after that, there's like a mention of like of a tall man in a suit, and like creepy clown. And I was like, oh, there's Slender Man and I guess Pennywise, or it might even be like there's other clown creepypastas that we've done, but like it might just be like again like clown stories. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure if that was a nod to just Pennywise or if there's a creepypasta clown that they were kind of alluding to with that. Because I know that I know that Laliette is a pretty big creepypasta aficionado as well. So like this story felt like kind of almost like a love letter to Jeff the Killer as well as creepypastas.
Yeah.
The next thing I have, now that I have to like sift through my notes that I've been like kind of just like, I just like took the spaghetti and just like threw it into the bowl, and now I gotta like try and find the meatballs. Oh, here's one. So this is like when they're talking about like the bullies with the knives, and it's like, wait, how old are these bullies? And like, oh, middle schoolers. And then Troy's just like, what the fuck are middle schoolers doing with knives? Troy asked, his mouth half full of chocolate and marshmallows. And like I kind of just had like a kind of an off comment that it really isn't like an attack or like a comment on the story. It's just like, I don't know, the same kind that pulled a knife on me when I was a kid growing up in Toronto.
Seriously?
Like no, that yeah, like, and I was in middle school when that happened. So yeah, no, I can believe it.
Fair enough.
Yeah, no, and again, it's not really anything against the story. It's just like it kind of brought up. I was like, oh yeah, like obviously this character is a fictitious character. Like saying this, it's like has no like regard. Like, oh, what character or what middle schooler would have a knife and pull it on somebody? It's like, that doesn't sound too far fetched to some of us.
It depends on how shitty their parents are at raising them into being a little fucking monster.
Exactly. Yeah, that's how bullies are forged, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. The other aspect I had on that quote is basically how Troy is like he chimes in a couple of times. You're probably going to end up talking about the second one as well. But him chiming in is almost like the community's thoughts on the quote unquote first Jeff the Killer story. I'm sure in the comments there's people saying, why do they have knives? And like, what was the second one? I wrote it down.
Oh, like bleach doesn't make your hair black or go black.
Yeah, I feel like he's just commenting the way that actual people were commenting on the story.
Yeah. I don't have that actually in my notes, but the story does have that kind of commentary on both like the arguments and opinions that people have had about the original Jeff the Killer stories. Because it mentions like the first not the first one, but like the one that everyone knows about for Jeff the Killer's origin story, with like he goes to like a kid's like they mention straight, like they allude to like he became all fucked up after fighting some bullies at a kid's birthday party. That's obviously the well-known Jeff the Killer story. And then it even mentions like the other iteration where with the flare gun, which is the Jeff the Killer 2015 iteration. So the story feels like both like again like a love letter as well as a kind of commentary on reactions from the community on like certain details within these stories. And Troy is definitely the mouthpiece.
Yeah.
But yeah. What else do I have? So covered all that. Kind of quickly going through my notes to see if I've missed anything. So this one here. Fine then, Jane snapped at our bigger friend. Let's see how you deal with the other stories I've heard about Jeff. What do you mean other stories? Randy asked. I feel like this was Gamer's reaction when he first read the first Jeff the Killer story on the show.
I'm like, wait, there's more?
Actually, a lot of us probably had that same reaction.
Yeah.
When we read those first stories. It's like, wait, there's more? there's a whole fandom? What?
Why?
Yeah. The first thing that popped in my head was just that it's like, I'm sure this was Gamer's reaction, maybe all of ours.
Mm-hmm.
And then my next one here, as Troy started to go on into details about the newest D&D campaign, looked off in the direction of did I fuck that up? Hang on. As Troy started to go into detail about his newest D&D campaign, looked off in the direction of our buddy stumbled off in. I feel like
he looked off.
Yeah, it should be he looked off. Yeah, it should be he looked off in the direction our buddy stumbled off in. Hey guys, Randy's been gone a while. I'm gonna Oh, this is no, yeah. It should honestly. Okay, hang on. Yeah, that should be I looked off because it's Keith talking now.
All right.
Oh, okay. That's a grammar inquisition that we missed.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I feel like there should be an I. I looked off in the direction of our buddy had stumbled off in. Hey guys, Randy's been gone a while. I'm gonna make sure he hasn't fallen into the lake or something. And to quote the Dark Knight's Joker, and he go. As in, this is the moment the slasher movie goes tips up. Like, this is what, like, all right, we've got to know these characters. It's time for the killing to start. Or it's time for the reveal of like the first kill kind of thing. And then we covered the part where like they find Randy laying face down in the dirt, even though his eyes are wide open. Mm-hmm. And then we get to this part this is the last quote of the story for me. Scratched into the side of, so this is like, so up to this point Jane was admitted, and the last time that Keith saw her, she tried to kill herself with a pen after the doctor gave it to her to write into her dream journal. And then when he asked about the dream journal, all he found was a single note in the journal saying he's still out there, kind of thing. And then we get to this part at the very end.
Real or something?
He's real. I think it was he's real. And then we get to this part here. Like, this is a little bit time after that last visit. Scratched into the side of my white Chevy were 3 words that I had only heard once that day in the woods: "Go to sleep." And I was just like, "Fuck," because that's an interesting, like, that it's a good ending for me. Like, I liked how it ended off there, but also it left me with a question: what if this isn't a Jeff the Killer story, but it's an origin for Jane the Killer? Like,
yeah,
they state the killer the killer who is Jeff, or we don't really get a name for him specifically, but it's Jeff. By all,
they don't even show his face.
Yeah, they don't even show his face. They just say he was a guy from the local college who had been killing some girls.
Mm-hmm.
So it could have been Jeff. It could have been just like a random like dude that just happened to look like Jeff the Killer, in terms of his attire.
Because during the attack, all they mention is he has a knife and he's wearing a white hoodie. That's all they mention.
And Jane, in her hysterics, and as her mind was like kind of broken there, she had to know, like, see the face to see if it was actually Jeff. And she doesn't get that closure. So her mind kind of went even farther down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, I think Keith specifically said no. So that's probably because it either A, was Jeff the Killer, or was someone that looked a lot like him. Because if it was someone that looked completely different, showing her would actually put her mind at ease a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if it didn't have the scars and stuff of that, and didn't have like any of the face mutilations that Jeff had, like, if it just been like, because again, like a white hoodie, like a white long sleeve hoodie, is not impractical for murders. Like, they've, like, in true crime shit, people have worn those as their guys. Like, I think honestly, probably Jeff the Killer's like outfit was probably based off the Unabomber, which is basically just a guy in a long sleeved hoodie. So it's just another kind of thing for that. But yeah, like, if she had closure there, it might have maybe she wouldn't have gone to it. But Keith, being kind of logical, is like, no, this isn't Jeff the Killer. It's just some other crazy asshole. Like, Jeff the Killer is just a story. It's like we need to get the. He was being logical and actually reasonable to the situation of, like, we need to call the cops and get them in here. We don't need to bother looking at the body. Like, it's just going to cause more grief. Little did he know, though, Jane needed that closure.
Yeah.
And so Jane was admitted. Her mental stability was shattered by those events, and she was still alive when last Keith went to her. Like, she only attempted to kill herself and failed. So what if she escaped between the time of, like, his last visit and then this car keying thing? She's gone nuts over her obsession with Jeff the Killer and the events of that night in the woods, and so she may have actually been the one that keyed his car, and not actually Jeff. Like, it might actually be that Jane the Killer has risen from this origin story.
Yeah.
And that honestly, that was my end takeaway from the story. I was like, oh my god, what if it? Because, like, yeah, it could have been Jeff the Killer, but we already had kind of established that Jeff died, like, or Jeff was put in a body bag. Like, Keith saw the cops put him in a body bag. I mean, that doesn't mean anything when it comes to, like, certain slasher flicks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, Jason's done it, Michael's done it, the Terrifier has done it. Like, it's a common slasher trope. for somebody for the killer to go in a body bag and then just wake up in the morgue and kill and escape the morgue.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, bottom line for me, the end of this was like for this ending and stuff like that. This was fun, like really good setup and switch up of the characters' expectations, and even how things went down. I even like how tragically the survivors are ruined by the events of that night, because that sort of grounds it in reality further. Like they're suffering from PTSD from those events. Like it's kind of how they handle the events of the newest Halloween movies, like the I do in quotes Halloween, the sequel to the first Halloween that they put out, like I think I want to say 2019 is when that came out, or maybe 2018, where it's like it's been like 30 years since the original events and Laurie Strode, in like 30 years later, is still like suffering PTSD, like has become a recluse, has become a gun-toting, like trap-building, like broken person as a result of the events of Halloween 1978, because she still fears that he's out there and she's going to break out of that asylum. In fact, she wants him to break out of that asylum so she can finish him off. So like it kind of in a similar fashion, like it grounds it in like kind of a reality. Like, yeah, survivors of like murders like this, they get PTSD, they get survivor's guilt. And so like the reaction, like the kind of the aftermath of that event, like that is shown at the end of the story, feels grounded in reality as to like what would happen to the characters. They may not just go about their rest of their lives like surviving. They might have become recluse, or they've been admitted to a psych ward as a result of the events. So yeah, for me, the ending was just kind of like chef's kiss, like leaving me to wonder and speculate in a good way. So yeah, that's my actual thoughts. Mikey, D stands for evil. What say you?
Well, I unfortunately went down the Magic the Gathering rabbit hole.
Oh no. Are you going to ruin this because of continuity issues with Magic the Gathering? Because he's critically silly always.
All right, that's a good reason.
Yeah. So the first actual thought quote here is, that's the one thing I liked about Randy. The guy was an asshole, but he never really changed from that mop-headed dork in middle school who freaked out over losing his filigree angel card to some neckbeard at Friday Night Magic. So I looked up filigree angel.
Does it exist?
It does exist, yes. But it's an 8 to cast 4/4 flyer that when it comes into the battlefield, you gain 3 life for each artifact you have in play.
Cool.
So
I know nothing about Magic.
Well, the thing with it is that it being 8 to cast makes it really expensive to play, because mana is at a premium when you're playing Magic the Gathering, and if that's a card you're waiting to get out, it's sort of in end game territory, because if you're last beyond 8 turns, it's a long drawn out game.
But it's potentially like you can turn the tide of battle, because if all your shit, if you have a bunch of shit out, but everything is almost dead, you cast that and then it heals it, right?
Well, it gives you life, yeah, for each artifact. And I looked into like, why is this potentially a good card? And there are some decks out there that use it as part of a combo, but the only downside is that you have to survive long enough to be able to pull off that combo.
Is it sad that as soon as you said that, I was like, you've got to survive long enough to become the villain?
Yeah.
Of the Magic Gathering game.
Yeah.
I mean, if you pursue a Magic the Gathering game too long, you do become the villain, because everyone hates you for prolonging it that long.
Yep. And in regards to losing it, I looked up how expensive that card is to replace, and it's not expensive at all. I can get a near mint foil version, which is the fancy version, for 99 cents Canadian.
Okay, but if it's his favorite card,
Yeah.
He's going to be emotionally invested in.
But it's easily replaceable.
But that's his.
Yeah, exactly. Like they are middle schoolers.
This one is mine.
Yeah, exactly. Like they're middle schoolers at this point. So, like, yeah, they like I remember like I collect like the cards just for like the art and stuff like that. But I would hate if I lost some of those. And
or he might be mentioning it in the story because it's like, oh, he's still that mop-headed guy that freaked out losing this kind of crummy card. Like, he's not saying that it's an amazing card. He's just saying that he freaked out when he lost this card.
Exactly.
He might be using that card specifically because it's nothing special to show how nerdy, I guess, he is.
Yeah.
To me, anyway, it would have been better if he used a different card, like even a different one from that set. So I looked up and saw what was one of the best cards from that set.
Okay.
And that's a card called Sphinx of the Steel Wind. And it's also 8 to cast, but it's a 6/6 flyer with First Strike, Vigilance, Lifelink, and Protection from red and green, which to me seems like a whole lot more bang for your buck than 3 life per artifact.
Fair.
And I looked up how much that one is, and a foil version is $7 Canadian.
Okay, so I mean, fair. I'm also looking at the artwork for both of them because that's how I gauge Magic cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they both are very pretty too. Like the Sphinx almost looks like an angel in itself because it's got like a bunch of weird like kind of stuff going on. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I think I know nothing about like I know I have a lot of friends that are in or that have been in the Magic tournaments and stuff like that, like online, but I know next to nothing about like Magic the Gathering tournaments and stuff. So I think I'm on the same like board as Gamer here.
Yeah, I've seen like 2 Magic games being played just through like watching Game Grumps.
Yeah,
and I mean, from Game Grumps is way into that.
Yeah, and I mean, like I've played it casually. Yeah, I've played it casually over at a friend's place. Like maybe like I think like last year or the year before that was the last time I played. But like I don't know anything about the cards, like outside of they look pretty, and I assume they do things.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is interesting that it is interesting that they chose a card that is less rare or like less
desirable,
financially like desirable. But again, it could just be that like he was a dork and he liked that character. He liked the character on the art and like that card because maybe it was his first Magic card, or for a specific deck that he was tuning up. So maybe that's why he freaked out. But like,
maybe it simply needs to be put like he freaked out when he lost this card for some reason.
Yeah,
like or even though it's not that good.
Yeah, exactly. Like maybe if you want to add a little bit of extra detail to that, yeah, sure.
Yeah, that would fix it so much for me.
All right.
All right.
I'm not gonna lie, you did sound a little bit like, well, actually, this card is better than this card, so I don't know why this would be so important to this one guy. Like, you kind of sounded a little bit like that, Mikey. You might be getting drawn this week on a title card with like kind of the nerd shirt with like a pencil with a pen pocket protector and stuff. Just FYI.
Yeah.
That's fine.
All right. So the next quote I have here, also Magic the Gathering relating.
Okay.
So this is about Troy.
I knew as soon as like Magic the Gathering came in, I was like, oh man, because I know Mikey's like history with Magic the Gathering, so it's like, oh my god. Yeah, I was kind of expecting this.
He would have sold his soul for a Black Lotus and swore that he would be buried with his best decks like some sort of pharaoh. So I decided to look up how expensive the rarest version of Black Lotus is.
Yeah.
And what I found was $97,512 US.
I just typed in Black Lotus and like the first thing that comes up, Black Lotus sells for $166,100.
It's just a piece of cardboard.
Yeah.
It was that was recently sold on eBay. That's more than twice what a similar card sold for in July of last year.
Yeah.
God damn.
So yeah, but my issue is here is
Mana. Like, is it
The
that
mana cost
good?
is 0. The mana cost is 0. It's an artifact card.
yeah, and the problem is it's a collector's card. You wouldn't actually play with it at this stage because of how expensive it is.
There is actually a Google thing. People ask why Black Lotus is so expensive. Black Lotus is usually considered to be the most valuable non-promotional Magic card ever printed. Its alpha and beta version, in particular, are considered to be extremely valuable due to the more limited print runs and the black borders on those sets.
Yep.
So it's basically a graphic art thing. Like, because there's only a limited supply and there's a certain kind of border they have.
Yep.
So it's not because it's OP or anything.
No.
It's just because there's not many out there.
Yeah.
It is kind of OP if you actually play with it because its mana sources are hard to come by, especially one
You
that
did say that mana is in short supply.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
although it requires 0 mana to use.
Well, 0 mana to cast it, yeah. So it gives you mana, like it allows you to cast things quickly on your first turn.
Gotcha.
And basically cast something that your opponent isn't prepared to deal with on their first turn. So, but yeah, my main point here is that if you're going to sell your soul, go big or go home. A piece of cardboard isn't worth it.
Brought to you by our resident Also, I mean, again, it's kind of like a childish kid thing to do, is to say that kind of stuff. Like, it's also a nerdy thing to say. Like, I know nerds that have said things for like similarly like stupid valued like items. Like, yeah.
I can't think of any examples.
No.
Yeah.
Like, I just think of like the joke one that like one of our friends from like high school said is like, I had to sell part of my blood for this Pokemon card.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like that kind of like thing, like that kind of mentality that like again, collectibles and stuff like that. Like they're just pieces of plastic and stuff like that. But it's what the person who wants it is willing to like sell and stuff. Obviously, this is probably just an exaggeration on the part of Troy, but I mean, yeah, like whatever. You're being silly, critically silly on our show. Weird.
And now the second half of that,
the second half of Mikey's Magic the Gathering corner.
Well, this is the second half of that quote.
Okay, sorry.
Is that there's a missed opportunity to have a touching funeral scene where Keith places Troy's best deck into the casket. Because it mentions that he wanted to be buried with them, but no action was taken.
I mean, it's not said. It doesn't necessarily mean that it didn't happen.
It doesn't mean it did either.
That's true. It's Schrodinger's deck.
Mm-hmm.
Or Schrodinger's event. Did it happen or not?
I do get what he's saying, though.
Catch up on
because it
that.
was mentioned, you figure it was like a setup.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, honestly, it could have been also like a similar missed opportunity. You could have had like, oh man, like if I lost my if I ever got that if I ever got that Black Lotus card and lost it, man, I wish somebody would just slit my throat right there and then.
Yeah.
Like, I give an arm for that, and then he gets his arm chopped off.
Yeah. Exactly, like kind of like that kind of a setup. Like it would definitely fall in tune with the slasher vibe of this story.
Mm. And then, continuing on, my last quote here for Magic the Gathering. So, in the story, they're drinking beer in front of a campfire. They change the topic because Randy was dumped by his girlfriend. And then we get this quote, out of habit, we had all brought the decks we would take to the card shop on any other Friday night. And Randy's expression lightened up when he and Troy beat Jane and I in a game of two-headed giant. My issue is that do know how hard it is to play Magic the Gathering when your only light source is a campfire?
Yes, I've done it before. Actually, like I think the last time last time I played it with that group of friends I mentioned earlier, it was out in Muskoka. And
I mean, depending on the year this is in, they could just all have cell phones with flashlights on them to read the cards, or
that's true
have
also,
flashlights with them.
Yeah,
like standard ass.
Like it's already established that they have cell phones with like flashlight apps.
I'm just saying it's a royal pain in the ass.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. But when you're nerds, I'm sorry, Mikey. I believe we both have played Magic the Gathering out at the park in the town in one of our local towns. Out, and there was the only light that we had was like the street lights, or the park and street lights that were kind of coming in through the gazebo that we were playing in.
Well, I'm pretty sure that gazebo was lit up.
Was it?
It had its own light.
I don't remember that memory is a little foggy still for me now, but
for convenience,
outside of the reason of like outside of the fact that we had like the local cops came by asking why we were all there hanging out at night in that gazebo, and then they saw the magic cards and then snickered and left.
Fucking nerds.
Yeah, it was definitely kind of one of those moments like, oh, they're not doing drugs, they're dealing magic cards. All right, let's go, boys.
Yeah. But at least in that scenario, we had picnic tables to play on.
Yeah,
which made it so much easier.
How about this? Sure. These kids are more hardcore than you guys are.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah. No, 100%.
Get wrecked.
Yeah, I'll get wrecked.
You know,
like, I'm on gamer's side. Like,
you as well.
Yeah, exactly. Self-deprecating humor. Get wrecked. Yeah. All to prove Mikey wrong. No.
Yeah.
No, it just goes to show like how dweeby and nerdy these kids are.
Yeah, and also ruining their eyesight.
Of course, they're a bunch of kids. They don't know. Let's be honest. First off, half of them don't even have a future.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. And then the second half, like the whole world's ahead of them as far as they know at that entire moment. So like they're king of the worlds at that point.
So how are they ruining their eyesight?
Because of like staring at like straining your eyes in like near dark environment.
We established they have flashlights on their phones.
Oh, that's true. Get wrecked.
Yeah.
To Mikey's turn, it's not mentioned that they have their flashlights out at that time.
Yeah, it's just suddenly they play a game and it's done.
That said, also actually, given that like the firelight is like given that they did say that their campfire was stoked by like logs as well as like lighter fluid and stuff like that. I've had some pretty like badass fire like campfires in my in not recent history, but like this over the summer even, and they have been basically like about as bright as like an overcast day in some cases. So especially with like the lighter fluid and stuff that's introduced in this one, so like I could believe that maybe like they've got a particularly like bright campfire going.
But they only have whatever logs they brought.
Yeah, which they still had some more. So like they
head full of logs.
Yeah, and they apparently still had some more in the truck because like he pulled one out of the truck bed to knock out to basically like KO the killer.
Yeah.
So, I love how this is our argument for this episode. Yeah. Hope you're enjoying this, Laliette, if you're listening. This is our argument over your creepypasta.
All right. Anyway, so
yeah.
Now to cut the MTG out of this.
The what?
MTG.
Oh yeah. Oh, MTG. Yeah, Magic the Gathering. Yeah.
Oh, it's an MTG, like a G that was empty. Like what? I'm so confused.
Hey.
Get with the lingo, buddy.
Yeah, I'll do that. Hey, you're supposed to be my hype man.
No, I'm back on Mikey's team.
Get wrecked.
Oh.
Yeah, get wrecked.
Traitor.
Okay, continue, please, Mikey.
All right. So my next actual thought. Wait. How old are these kids? I asked, a s'more in one hand and a bottle of vodka I brought in the other, And I'm thinking to myself, he's drinking vodka straight out of the bottle?
It's Chekhov's vodka. It's gonna come up in a minute. Remember, he's in on whatever Jane was doing. Remember, they discussed Jane asked him about something while Troy and Randy were off goggling the newest Magic the Gathering cards. So, and then like right near after the story of Jeff the Killer, he dunks that bottle of vodka all over Randy. So it was in his hand as a setup for when he dunks it on Randy.
So he's not partially Russian.
No. It was just cheap alcohol.
And I looked up how much a bottle of that vodka costs. So it's
Yeah,
$32 in Canada.
in Canada.
Tax. Yeah.
What about in America? Because I feel like booze is a lot cheaper in America.
Oh, probably. It always is.
Our American listeners, if you'd like to help us out, like find out what the bottom of the shelf vodka would cost Keith here, please let us know in the comment section below.
Well, specifically Tito's vodka.
Oh, is it Tito's? Yeah, there's actually a brand.
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna save it for our comments. I'm not gonna bother googling it. I want to see if any of our American listeners like actually reply to us about that. But also, like, even if it is say $30 here, like that. I mean, this is their last hurrah, like big hurrah. So they might be spending a little extra on this trip just for a gag. Again, dumb high school kids in a slasher movie, effectively.
Yep. All right. So my next actual thought quote here: the guy didn't say a word as he flipped the knife in his hand, gripping it so that the blade was facing down. He moved his hand up. The first thing coming to my mind was the scene of Norman Bates stabbing Marion in the shower, and I felt adrenaline burst through me as I ran at the man who killed my best friend. So I understand the downward motion of stabbing, but I mean, they're out in the woods and nowhere near a shower, and Jane isn't naked, so the putting.
Are you really attacking this?
That is the iconic.
I'm back on Gamer's team. I'm back on Gamer's side.
Stab angle.
Like, it's the iconic, like, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's the iconic, like, stabbing motion that everyone in pop culture, like, everyone who's been even under a rock, Gamer knows it.
Yeah, I haven't even seen that movie.
Get wrecked.
You have to draw yourself as the hype man.
I really do. Like, I get it. You're doing it. I'm hoping that you're just doing this for critical silliness. But like, come on, man.
Well,
there's no shower here. She's not even naked. This is clearly not. Why would he think that at all? This story has us attacking each other, guys.
That's why Jeff the Killer stories are evil. They're turning us on each other.
You're tearing me apart. Oh God.
All right, and I think that's it for my actual thoughts until we go into final thoughts.
Okay. Gamer.
Yeah, I don't have much left.
Fair.
My one that's left is when they're mentioning what's the actual quote? Because I didn't quote it.
Good job.
I did the thing
by not doing a thing.
Yeah.
Get wrecked.
Saying like, if I hadn't contributed a bottle of Tito's to the booze and Grey Yeti held, like I didn't know what the hell Yeti was, and then I mentioned
really?
Yeti again. I'm like, what the hell is Yeti? I'm assuming it's a cooler based on context clues.
No, they're carrying a Yeti. They're carrying an abominable snowman.
Yeah, no, I didn't assume that.
Sorry, I was reading you for a minute. Get rid. No,
but like I've never heard that term. After Googling it, it's a brand that makes drinkware and coolers. Yeah. So like, okay, but isn't that like me saying like, after this recording, I'm gonna go use my Microsoft
You're not wrong. They could
You know
have
what I'm
maybe
talking
like
about, right? My Microsoft.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, they could have maybe like even like the first time mentioned that it was a Yeti cooler.
Yes.
Also, what's funny is like Yeti for me has a different connotation. Maybe because like I'm a podcaster, but I think of the Yeti Snowball, which is a type of recording mic.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a blue Yeti Snowball. And
You
it's
can
like
just put beers in it.
a what?
You just put beers in it and
Oh
extract them
yeah,
whenever
yeah.
you
No,
want.
it's like the super bro like recording mic for podcasters.
Nice.
But no, it's like yeah. Once it was like kind of once I got to the part where it's like it's all capitalized like Yeti, I was like, okay, that's probably just like a brand of something.
Yeah. But again, because
yeah.
I kept saying it, I had to look it up because I'm like, what the hell is this thing?
No, that's fair. I do kind of agree. Like, just got to add like the first time it's mentioned, just add cooler, and then like I think all issues go away for that.
Yeah.
Because they don't even need to do the cooler after, because we know what a Yeti is from the context
Exactly.
of that. Yep. Yeah. Also, counterpoint, the way it is now, you can assume it's a cooler, but we all know what assuming means.
It means it makes me angry.
Yeah.
Duh. But yes.
Get wrecked. Sorry, that's apparently my I've latched onto that.
That's your quote of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I have left for my notes because I chimed in on all my other stuff.
Yeah, that's fair. So I guess then we move on to final thoughts. Big surprise. I loved the story. I could see this as a slasher film in my head if it wasn't obvious from me constantly saying slasher film. Even despite all of the grammar issues, like there's a fair amount of them, as we please see the last 2 hours,
Yeah,
or the last hour and a half. But that said, all those errors, like a quick round, like going back through the story and editing those, and like just doing like an edit on all those lines, and this is good to go in my opinion. So yeah, I recommend this. I love the story. So guys, tear me a new one. Your thoughts, or your final thoughts, because I've been way too positive.
All right. I liked the idea or trope of campfire story making the monster real, or the monsters nearby in the bushes.
The irony of it.
Yeah.
Either it was summoned because of the I think she even says like that he's like he's a monster that comes out of your that's like on like a cyber demon that summons when you say its name. And so like yeah, it does kind of lead that, is he supernatural, or is this happen like a bad, like just bad timing on their part?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then what I didn't like was there's no confirmation if it actually was Jeff the killer or just some guy in a hoodie that
Fair.
also likes knives.
I mean, the cops did say that he was like, what was he?
He was a local college like student who had killed several girls.
Which isn't Jeff's MO.
No, it isn't. So it may not have actually been Jeff, this one, but he looked like Jeff, and they were telling Jeff the killer stories, and so like it's kind of it's basically a mundane interpretation of a Jeff the Killer story.
Yeah.
In that it's like it's just a random killer in the woods, and it was just poor timing on their part.
Because they just told the Jeff the Killer story, they put his face onto this other guy's face, basically. Like, if Jane saw him, she would probably just see him as Jeff the Killer because of the circumstances.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, the ending made no sense until review cultists mentioned that it's more likely the origin stories of Jane the Killer.
Yeah, and I think that might, I have no idea if that's intentional, but like even like looking at the title, it's called Jeff, the Killer. They separate Jeff and the Killer. So like they talk about Jeff in the story, but this might actually be Jane the Killer, like as a story, like as a origin for it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, again, that's just kind of my theorizing as like I was connecting dots and stuff.
Yeah. So, and then of course, there's that missed opportunity of having a funeral and the
and dropping
decks.
as rain is coming down, and he's got an umbrella over, like a black umbrella over him, and he just he looks down at the coffin in the grave and just drops a deck of cards into the grave site as they start throwing shoveling dirt into the grave.
I'd say it'd be more ceremoniously, like at the what's
At the
word?
wake.
Yeah, at like open coffin kind of situation. You just puts his deck of cards in there with him, just gently.
Just slips it into his into the pocket of his jacket,
mm-hmm.
of his suit that he's being buried in.
Hmm.
Yeah, that would if we want to have add on to the sadness and sorrow of the story, just have that. It's like we don't see Randy's funeral. We just see Troy's funeral. I'm just slipping in that deck of cards, and just
it's fuck Randy, right? Fuck Randy, right?
I mean, he is the asshole.
Yeah.
But yeah, he just slips it in there. It's like, sleep, Prince.
Yeah. So all the stuff we talked about, I'm only going to give this a partial recommendation.
All right, fair enough. And then to Gamer.
So for me, as a counterpoint to what you were saying, Cultus, about you loving this because it's a slasher movie, it's I'm counterpointing because it's unfortunately a very bad slasher movie. Because hear me out, it's like,
okay, yeah, I'm curious.
It's like this: if you start watching a Jason movie, okay, Friday the 13th, whatever, and you get to know the characters, it's all great. First kill happens, Jason shows up, kills one more guy, and then they thwart him within 5 minutes in the movie.
Damn it, you're right.
Yeah, it goes by way too quick.
So maybe it's less of a slasher flick and more of a slasher short film.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, because they got a time budget,
Yeah, because they had this is actually the setup for a longer. Well, maybe again, this may not even be this could actually this is still
the intro kill to the Jane the Killer movie.
Yeah, this is the first 20 minutes of the movie, where they're faking you out because it's still called Jeff the Killer, but it's actually not about Jeff. It's about Jane and her obsession with Jeff the Killer and becoming the killer.
Yes.
And then that's so it's kind of they've done that in movie. I know that movies have done that in the past. It's kind of actually Friday the 13th, the first one. They talk about Jason, so you think throughout the whole movie it's Jason. And I mean, spoilers for a movie that came out in 1980 or 1979 or something. But at the end, it's revealed that it wasn't Jason killing people; it's his mom. So
yeah.
It's kind of that kind of thing. The movie could even be it's oh god, Jeff the Killer, it's Jeff that's killing people, or around Keith, after his car gets keyed and stuff like that. And then as he starts going into it, he discovers that Jane escaped from prison or escaped from the psych ward and stuff. And so then suddenly we get that switcheroo. It's no, it's not Jeff, it's Jane. Dun dun.
And then she could have even fashioned a mask that looks like Jeff the Killer.
Yeah. I mean, because if it seems like in this world, Jeff the Killer is a person, or not a person, is a story, is a creepypasta. So clearly, she's gone to Spirit Halloween and gotten one of those those blatant plagiarist masks of Jeff the Killer.
Yeah.
And it's just using that it could be using that basically to try and pull off her kills.
Yeah, a little bit more than a prank.
Yeah, but she is embodying the spirit of Jeff the Killer as she's gone down the rabbit hole of insanity.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I agree. I don't think that doesn't ruin this for me, but it just basically makes it what I love about the story. It's just the first part of a story of a larger story that or a larger movie that we just haven't gotten yet.
Yeah.
So,
and my point is I kind of wish we had the whole movie, not just this little snippet.
Yeah.
If it continued on and it showed that Jane was the new killer, or they didn't actually kill Jeff, he woke up in the morgue, very cliche-like, and got out and continued hunting them, I wouldn't be mad. That's fine. Mm-hmm. But it just felt like it could have went on way longer. Even just the attack that happened could have went on longer, because they thwarted him so fast.
Yeah.
For a guy that's a professional murderer, you just get one-shotted.
That's true. You know, it was a 1-2 KO because he like got bashed in the back of his head and then bashed into his his nose like got basically caved in or something from like a second swing.
Yeah.
But yeah,
viewing this as a slasher movie, the quote unquote Jeff the Killer guy is kind of inept and he gets owned really easily and quickly. But viewing this as a real world horror situation where people are just out in the woods telling scary stories and there just happens to be a random murderer there, that kind of situation would happen because in real life, it's not going to be the murders aren't going to be stretched out into a 3-act story. You know, like if they're all going to happen, they're all going to happen. So the way I'm viewing this is as of a real world situation, and not in any kind of fiction sort of thing.
That's
so
fair.
In that aspect, I kind of like it because it's more realistic approach to it. Instead of trying to explain why his fate or why his like skin changed color and all that stuff, it's all just in the legends. And there happens to be a murderer here that's showing up at a bad time, as you mentioned. So I don't hate it, but I wish that it went on for that attack. So I'll give it a partial recommendation as well.
Okay. Also, I would like to like clarify, like when I think of like slashers, I'm not just thinking of like the 80s like cheesy slasher flicks. I'm also thinking of the more recent ones, which are a little bit more grounded in reality. Like I think of this one more like, again, Halloween 2018, 2019, which is a slasher flick, but it's more of a modern slasher flick. And it has some of the tropes of like slasher movies, but it also deals with more gritty, like more. It has some grounding in reality on reactions,
consequences and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I 100% agree. Like, I would love to see this expanded on and like to for the reveal that this is actually Jane the Killer, not Jeff the Killer. Like, I think that would be an amazing like continuation of this story. But yeah, I understand why you. Like honestly, like you're I understand why you wanted more. I share that.
Yeah, I also kind of wish that when Jane was telling her story, she said that legends say that Jeff killed the 3 bullies, and 3 bullies just happen to have the same names as you guys. Actually,
yeah, it is interesting that the story, like I understand why he Lolliet like omitted the names of the bullies because they're the characters in this, but it would have been an interesting like thing to like, oh, by the way, those bullies, they were named Randy.
Oh, good thing my name's Troy then.
Oh shit. Wait. Oh shit, now I'm confused. Wait, was it Randy, Troy, and no.
It's Troy.
It is Troy? Okay, good.
No, you said Todd.
I accidentally said Todd.
It's fine.
I'm keeping that in, fuck it.
Yeah.
I goofed. But yeah.
Because, like, okay, in that situation, I could just, like, if I'm telling a spooky story to random 3 friends of mine, I could just say that those victims were the same names as yours, and they wouldn't know one way or another.
And that's exactly it. Like, yeah, like it could almost be like, again, it's like these stories are in this universe, like in this timeline of Jeff, or this iteration of Jeff the Killer. Jeff the Killer, the creepypastas happened. Like, they're a thing. They're an internet phenomenon. This is in the same, like, in this iteration, this like universe of Jeff the Killer. Jeff the Killer is a story, a creepypasta. So I do like the idea of like, yeah, the names of the bullies, like, you don't really need them. They could be anybody, or they could be Randy, Keith, and Troy, and it just happens that Randy, Keith, and Troy, these Randy, Keith, and Troy are in the woods and stuff like that and dealing with that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, again, like alternate reality. That's why I'm like playing on like the meta contextual, like alternate reality angle of this story is what I like about it. Yeah. It's like the switcheroo.
And because he's only in legend, it adds to the immersion of it, because in the world that I'm living in real life,
he's just a legend.
The killer is just a legend.
Right.
So I'll bump it up to a recommended plus, or a partially recommended plus, like almost fully recommended. Because I do wish there was more, but I do like the immersion of it and everything.
All right. Okay. Well, that was... there was nothing else, right?
No, I'm good.
Okay. So that was this week's episode. If you like what you heard, or if you didn't, leave us a comment in the comment section below, where this gets posted, whether it be on Podbean, Facebook, YouTube, Tumblr. Even though I have not updated our Tumblr in a year. Whoops. If you'd like to get a hold of us, you can talk to us on Twitter Mikey is at the E stands for evil. The Gamer in Yellow is at the Gamer in Yellow without that W because his name is very long.
Yup.
I'm at Review Cultist. You can also send us emails at aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. Where you can also leave us suggestions for other creepypastas, SCPs, spooky internet things for us to discuss, or cryptids and such. Just let us know. Also, if you want to just talk to us, send us an email. Let us know how we're doing. If you'd like to help support the show, you can go to Patreon, look at Al Dente Rigor Mortis, and select the backer tier you'd like to support us at. We have $2 and $5 tier with early access, extra content, special episodes. To our patrons that are helping support the show, thank you guys immensely. You're helping keep those hosting bills at bay. And as always, we very much appreciate that. And to the listeners of this show and the writers of these stories, thank you guys immensely. Because without your listenership, it would be like talking to the void. And without your authorship, without your stories and your entries that you've posted online for people to read, we would not have them have material to talk about and enjoy and discuss. So thank you all the same. Until next time, I have been your host, Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey. The E stands for evil.
And I'm the Gamer in Yellow.
And this has been Al Dente Rigor Mortis. Sleep well and go to sleep. Where y'all think it's Jason that's killing people, but it's actually Jesus.
What?
My dog is on the back, is behind me on my bed, and she just like gag coughed, and it like jump scared me.
Nice.
Oh God.